special action is to come out of regular session and enter executive session. So for the purpose of reviewing and evaluating the performance of the superintendent or any other public officer, employee, or staff member, unless that person requests an open hearing. And that's per ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub I. And to consider records exempt by law from public inspection per ORS 192.660 sub 2 sub F. So if anybody is in the audience, we're going to ask you to leave unless you're newspaper people. Anybody in the audience? Okay. Good, Jill. Session of the Management School Board to order, and if we could stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay. Welcome everyone who is in attendance in the room with us and also in the Zoom world. Jill, do we have that slide on Zoom? Okay, so we don't have any translators. Do we have the slide on Zoom protocols?
Yeah.
So for those of you that are joining us in Zoom, just a few things to be mindful of. You will be muted by our host, and don't take offense, that's just to do noise control. And also, if you want to address the board during the public forum portion of our agenda, use the chat function to let our host Jill know that you would like to address us. And that's really the intention of chat, is to sign up for public forum and also to let Jill know if there are any technical issues going on with the meeting, if you can't hear us or if there's something glitching. It's not intended for questions to be asked during the meeting. So if you do ask a question in chat, it might not be answered because that's not the intention of the chat function. And I think that about covers the logistics. And for those in the room, welcome. Restrooms are somewhere out the doors, just right up here to the right. Yes. All right. And moving on to public forum sign up. If anybody in the room would like to address the board tonight, we have a sign up sheet over here. And I don't have any announcements. Are there any announcements for the good of the room? And presentations, moving right along to JFK leadership. Ms. Geschwell is no, not in either space. Okay, we'll move on to a sports report from Mr. Peterson.
I will try to do this off of my Trojan Times newsletter that was sent out. I never received a report, but I have updates. So I'm happy to do this. So I apologize for staring into my phone. I'm not doing that on purpose. So baseball team ended their season this past Friday, a little bit ago, by beating Umpqua Valley Christian, 10-run them actually in the state title game, which was great. It was over at Volcano Stadium. We had Andrew Cuff was the winning pitcher, and the kids played well. They played really, really well. Despite the weather, the game started well with the weather, and then it started drizzling probably about the second, third inning, and it just got mucky. And for any of us that have pitched at Beaufort, and when you're pitching on a mound like that, which is mostly clay, it's sticky. It sticks to your feet, and Andrew did a great job. So the score of that game was 11-1. Our softball team had a great season. They ended their season, unfortunately, in the semifinals to Lakeview. Lakeview beat them 2-0, but Lakeview also went on to win the state title. So that's not a bad thing when you lose the eventual state champions. Track and field had a really great season, and I'm just kind of list through some things how kids did at the state meet. I was able to go for one of the days, and it was a mix of some weather. It was University. For those of you know me, I am not a really big Duck fan, being a Husky. So saying that stadium is unbelievable is something else.
It's okay, Dale. You can say you're not a Ducks fan, and yet Hayward Field is.
It is, yes, thank you. That's way more articulate than I had. Uncle Phil put a lot of money into that. Let's just put it that way, and it's beautiful. Rachel Kintz, 12th place in the 3,000 meters. Nora Brendan, 12th place in the 1500 meters. Briar Heckenberg, 11th place in the 800 meters. Haley Klein, 2nd place in the 400 meters and 7th place in the 200 meters. Great, it was a great showing there. Kylie Rodriguez, Briar, Annalise Williams, and Haley Klein placed 7th in the 4x400. Grant Vogel placed 3rd in the 110 high hurdles, which was very interesting. The day I was there, he barely made the finals. And so then to be able to place 3rd was really great. I asked him the next day of school how he felt about that. He felt really great about it. And we had Dakota Hurd, Griffin Kilburn, Jesus Cortez, and Stefan Salinas. They placed 6th in the 4x4 relay. So really, really good showing at an outstanding facility. Oregon gets to be able to show that facility off, gosh, in the middle of July, I want to say, with the Worlds coming, which is the first time I think the Worlds have ever been in the United States. So it's a pretty cool thing. That's what I have for sports.
Any questions or comments for Mr. Peterson on the sports update? Thank you and congratulations to the baseball team for winning the same
Yes,
title.
indeed.
That's amazing.
That's the first one since 2012. If I'm not
Yes.
mistaken.
Yes.
Every 10 years.
Yeah.
All right, and moving on to Bill Shecker is going to provide us with the property and liability coverage report.
Gave you 2 handouts. We're just going to go over the review. Nothing much has changed since, but I know we have different.
And Bill, when you're speaking, if you could project a little bit, because it's just, so people in the audience can hear you.
Okay. So Mount Angel School District is insured as a member of the Risk Pool PACE, which is property and casualty coverage for education. And it's a self-insured pool made up of Oregon school districts, ESDs, colleges, and charter schools. PACE has self-insured limits, which is they have enough money to pay for claims. Property is 1 million limits. Liability is up to 750,000. And then the balance is paid for by reinsurance carriers. So they have to go out and purchase reinsurance insurance for those. The overall limits of the policy, so liability is up to 15 million. And of course, the self-insured limit is 750, like I said before. So the balance of the claim, let's say there's a claim of 15 million. The 14,250,000 would then be paid by the reinsurance carriers. The reinsurance carriers include Genesis, which is rated A++, and that's within our district's policy, which we have to stay within. Moving on, number 3, our property limits for the district, 44,495,596. And of course, the self-insured limit is 1 million. So the balance would be paid for by, if we had a big fire come through, the PACE pays 1 million, the reinsurance pays the rest. Renewal premiums, we expected that they were going to be increased by 10% due to Mount Angel School District's low loss ratio. We only had a 3% increase, which is really good. Shows you that we're really taking care of things on our end. The reasons for the renewal rate increase on number 5, property reinsurance. So everything that happens in the United States and even the world, these disasters, big fires or earthquakes or tsunamis, they're all kind of covered by the reinsurance carriers. So when they pay out, then the next go around, their rates are going to go up. So everything affects everybody. Kind of crazy how that works, but under the liability reinsurance, those rates are up mainly because of the sexual abuse and molestation claims that seem to be increasing, as well as, you know, the severity. So how much is being paid out? And PACE is also being hit hard with those type of claims. We're good on our district right now. So, and the last one is cyber claims. They're going up like crazy. So rates are going up for those, and it's harder to find cyber coverage. And our district is doing a good job of making sure things are buttoned down and people aren't, you know, bad people aren't getting into our system. So I always like to talk about the earthquake coverage that PACE provides. So the whole risk pool of PACE has an earthquake limit of 450 million for the whole, all of their members. There's a 2% deductible, which is subject to a minimum of 5,000 or a maximum of 50,000 per claim. The sublimit for our district is only 10 million. So if you look back up on number 3, you know, we have property limits of 44 million and change, but we're only going to get 10 million if something happens, you know, and that could be prorated if there's a huge earthquake that takes out a bunch of other PACE members' property. So, I mean, 10 million does not go very far. You know, there's a number 5. Affordable earthquake is hard to find. Options, last time we looked, it's about $10,000 per 10 million of coverage, over and above what PACE offers. So if you guys discuss and as a board and want me to get some firm, you know, numbers on additional earthquake, I'm happy to do so. Just let me know on that. Employment practice is another component of the policy. And I've talked to Rachel about this a couple times. So there's a $25,000 minimum deductible for terminating an employee if PACE or an approved legal counsel is not consulted prior to the termination. So it's what they want to do is they want to be involved in any of that and making sure you're doing things correctly, and that when you are going through a employment termination or even thinking about that. Cyber liability, there's now a limit for cyber extortion of 200,000. So that's the most they will pay for an extortion claim. On D, the armed personnel coverage form. I put this in. I know right now we don't have an SRO, and I believe that was the only party that had a weapon. You know, I'll just let you guys read through that because it will come up if there is ever another SRO or someone that a type of guard with a weapon. I mean, we can go through it if you want. Okay.
I think it's okay.
So then down to number 7, PACE legal services, things that PACE offers, PACE legal services, PACE loss control services, safety and liability training. They have claims management services, and then they have the online access to safe schools. I think they just did an inspection of the playground at St. up here again. And so they did a report there. On the workers' compensation insurance, we placed that through SAFE. That's the best deal. This year's experience mod is 0.93, which is good. It's gone down from last year. So that means our claims are lower. The annual premium will be $27,800 this year. And we did receive a nice dividend of 11,292. And they continue to work well with the school district. And I believe, so yeah, so you pay the 27,000 this year, but then they'll send you a check if you are in the dividend money, and that's always good. So any questions? This has all the limits, sub-limits and things of that nature. Thought I'd let you guys look that over.
Any questions or comments for Bill? I jotted down that, we have that $34 million gap in our
There's a 30, yeah.
coverage. So something, that would, if we're going to fully insure, it'd be about $34,000 a year.
The good news is
Right.
we've
I do
been,
the math, right? Yeah.
I think the high school was updated pretty well with earthquake.
And we just got a big seismic
Okay,
middle school. So yeah, just something for us to be aware of.
it's, very good. So, all right.
Thank you, Bill. Any questions or comments? No? Thank you very much.
Mark's gonna have a question.
No.
No, okay, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
Bill.
All right.
It's not out of their own questions. I mean, this building's here because of an earthquake.
Yes. True. True. All right, I would ask us all to review the agenda, and I would build a motion to approve it. It looks good.
Good. Motion to approve the agenda as is. Second.
Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. All right, passes unanimously. Consent items. Are there any consent agenda items that any board members would like to?
I have a question about hire, and it's probably more of a Dale question.
Okay.
I don't know if we need to pull that out or.
No, I mean, we can, if you think it's going to influence.
No.
Okay, let's just, I think if you have
It's just-
questions on the
it's just a
consent item,
clarification.
that's fine.
Clarifying.
Yeah, no, that's fine. So let's go ahead and do the motion in a second, and then under discussion, we can ask questions and comments. So if someone wants to make a motion to approve.
I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Moved and seconded. Now for discussion.
The hire of Lacey Davis, is that high school?
Yes, high school and middle school,
Okay, so that replaces
and the leadership.
an impartial. And this hire does not have her health occupation.
No.
That class is going away.
Right now it is, yes.
Okay. Is there any looking at getting her endorsed for that?
We'll need to have a conversation with her about that, yeah. Okay. Great questions though, thank you.
If I may interject, the other piece to that is that Willamette Career Academy offers that, and we were duplicating some of the things and paying for our slots at Willamette Career Academy. So we actually lost money by having them in both locations. I just want to keep that in mind.
Any other comments or questions about the consent agenda? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
And that's unanimous. Okay, moving on to reports. So licensed and classified representative reports. Do any union presidents want to address and provide us with a report tonight? No hands raised, so moving on. Administrator reports. So who wants to go?
We have a joint.
So we can pull up another chair up there. up
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, that'd be good. If you guys want to present, that would be great.
Oh, I guess what? We got one.
We're good.
Quick finding.
It's the end of the year, we're a little tired.
This is what we do. Turn also.
I know,
I know the back of my head's probably not pretty.
who's running the?
I think it's Jill.
Oh, Christie, that's. Okay, perfect.
And I have it right here too.
Okay, fantastic. So we have some updates for you all. There were some areas that have not changed, or we don't have updated information, but we will go through what and update you with what we can. Next slide, please.
There it is.
Thank you. I'm not sure who did that. So you know that this has been our district goal with our current strategic plan. And we are about to move forward with a new strategic plan. Next slide. All right, so this first goal, of course, is around the AVID implementation. We're really excited. Next weekend, next Sunday, we take a group of 10 staff members to attend Seattle Summer Institute for different content and leadership trainings. And we also have district team time to really work on creating goals for how AVID will support our RTI system. So there's so much overlap between those two elements. And so that's really where we're going to focus our energies. We also have, AVID has actually secured grant funding for some additional training for the Oregon schools. And so we have 10 spots for training that will happen in the region in August that we will be able to send our staff members to. So each of those slots is about a $600 value. So that's a really good chunk of money. So we're excited to be able to take advantage of that. Future plans is starting to look at, of course, as we create those goals for how those two pieces are linked or going to be linked in our system, creating some professional learning that are tied to those goals that we have. And then identifying key indicators for us to be able to monitor implementation and impact. That has been an area that we need to grow in. And so that's an area that we're going to continue to work on. All right, next slide.
Rachel, can I ask a question?
Oh,
Sorry. Those 10 staff that are going to Seattle, is that paid through by a grant or is that out of our general fund?
Those going to Seattle,
Yeah.
that was already put into the budget.
Okay.
I have a question on that.
Yeah,
too.
good question.
Are the 10 staff middle school, high school, or?
All, there are a few from
Okay,
each.
A few from each. Okay.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you.
Okay, performance indicator number 2, excuse me. This talks about regular attendance rate as well. And we've also talked about yearly attendance. And the difference between two is regular attender rate is those students that are attending at a 90% clip or higher. That's a regular attender. And then just your yearly average, it's just the average. As an example, right now, St. Mary's year-to-date attendance is 91.3%. This is not regular attendance, this is just attendance rates. And we'll talk about regular attendance in a second. MAMS is 91.59%, and then JFK is 87.75%. Now, when you actually get into talking about regular attenders, those students that are attending at a 90% clip or above, St. Mary's is about 65%. So we have 65% of those students that are attending at 90% or above. MAMS is at 72%, and then JFK is at 60%. And these are the things, the bullet points, unless you'd like me to read through those that have been on there. These are the things we've been trying to do. This year, much like all 3 schools, without a counselor, it's been really difficult to do a lot of the things that we wanted to do. A lot of people were wearing a lot of different hats. And having those conversations with parents and students was, it seemed like we got to the point where it's, okay, now we have to have this conversation because this is where we're at. Rather than being proactive, we ended up having to be reactive, which is not the way we want to run business, but that's just where we were at this point. That's what we have for indicator number 2.
I have a question on attendance. I'm just slow in learning. So regular attenders are those students that show up on a regular basis.
90% of the time.
90% of the time. And what's the other one?
That is just overall, all the kids that have taken,
Okay, so some of those, so that's averaging those kids that
Yes.
only show up 70% of
Yep.
the time.
Yep.
Okay.
You're
Thank
not
you.
slow, you were right on.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
How often is attendance looked at each school?
We try and do it weekly,
Mhm.
just looking at the rates. I mean, things that, elementary obviously is a little different, but I mean, there's so much caution around health right now and this whole entire year
Yeah.
that it's really hard to weed out, like concerning attendance. And this family's just being really cautious about their, they've got a cold or something, or maybe someone in their family has one, so they're keeping kids home. And it's just not as clear as it once maybe felt.
High school, do they do by period attendance and then that's averaged?
Yeah, I want to say yes, but I'm not 100% certain on that.
I can speak to that. It's done by half and whole days.
Half and whole days?
Yeah, that's how attendance is reported.
Okay, so is the teacher?
Attendance is taken every period, but it's reported by half and whole days.
Got it.
From that box.
I was gonna say, thank you.
Whoever that is, thank
Erica
you.
Gordon's the voice. that got it.
Thank you.
Voice of
It is the
victor.
great and powerful Oz.
Thank you, Erica.
One of the other things too, I want to, that was a great a response from Jasmine, but one of the other things that we found out here in the last part of the school year is there's been an uptick of mental health things happening. And that's not uncommon for schools. For a lot of us, getting towards the end of the school year is a good thing. But for many students, it's the fear of the unknown. It's like, I don't know what's going to be happening beyond school. School is the safe place. School is the place that provides routine. And when there is a structure and routine, kids get worried. And so then there's an uptick of anxiety and there's an uptick of stress. So we've seen kids the last part of the school year that are home for a variety of reasons. I think we've had more kids this year that didn't show up, and this isn't a lot, but more this year that didn't show up for finals or a final because they were anxiety or stress, and not because of necessarily the final or the finals itself, just because of all the things that have gone on. Think about the year itself. It's been pretty traumatic for a lot of people coming out of COVID and moving forward. So I'm looking forward, hopefully, to a much more normal, typical year next year. So this is what we're planning. That's where we're at. Okay, next slide. Performance indicator number 7 is all high school students will earn a minimum of 6 CTE credits upon graduation. This was a very, back in the day, I wasn't here. This is a very lofty goal. I just want to kind of go through some highlights here. At the end of the first semester, this is our class of 2022, and it was a very small class. Had a wonderful graduation last Saturday, but it is a small class. The first column you see there is the number of students in semester 1, 34. That's because we had 5. We also included in those numbers the 5 exchange students, just accidentally. So that's why you see those numbers, especially 0 to 2.5, being quite a bit higher. But then we did the data correctly. So now you've got 7 students that earned 6+ credits, CTE credits, 13 students that were between 3 and 5.5 credits, and then 6 students that were 0 to 2.5. We actually had a senior student with 9.5 CTE credits. So I would say that tells me that student took most of their elective classes were CTE credits, which were great. That could be accounting credits, ag science credits, Moffitt's intro to wildland firefighting, things like that. Those are CTE credits. Annie Purcell's health services courses that she has. So we had a lot. For a small school, we have quite a bit of CTE credits that we offer. It'd be great if we had more, but it's a pretty good goal. So at the end of the day, did we reach our goal? No, we didn't. We fell pretty short on that. We were about 27% of our kids at this point in time that graduated with 6 CTE credits. But again, I think that was a pretty lofty goal back in the day when it was made. Just me. Thank you.
So Dale, with Ms. Purcell not being here and teaching those CTE classes, additional CTE classes, is this going to have to be looked at for how we're going to maintain this?
Yeah, we're in the process right now of creating a new strategic plan. So whatever, I'm not sure if this will be part of that, but we're always going to take a look at that because it's important to see how many of our kids are actually earning CTE credits before they leave. We think about the workforce now, and we think about and just constant conversation with people in the community about the number of folks that are retiring from our workforce, that whether it be in the woods industry or the metal industry, fabrication, things like that, electrical, plumbing, and they're just begging for people to come work for them. I think the last time, it was in our last Lions Club meeting, I think we had the manager out at Pepsi saying, they start at $26 an hour and they can't get people to come work there. And it's just a matter of, we'll train them. We will train them. So having kids with CTE background would be a big plus for folks like that. So we'll always stay on top of that.
Are those 6 credits, are those counting the students that attended the outside of JFK? We went to the the
Willamette Career
Willamette.
Academy.
Willamette Career Academy,
Right.
yes.
So
yes.
that counts,
Mhm.
and you had 2 students
We
there.
had 2 there this year, yeah.
2 there, so there's only 4 students from JFK that were not, okay.
It's, while a lofty goal, 27% is just not a, like, I don't know, if it was a lofty goal, 50%, 27% is way low. In my, that's kind of alarming to me. I'm just being honest, like, when I look at those numbers, that's concerning.
You gotta have kids that want to take the courses.
We gotta provide the courses, and if they're leaving, you know,
We don't have courses for them to take.
right,
Mhm.
And we're not giving them the alternative to do other things in that realm.
Couldn't agree more.
How are we gonna track it for next year? Do we know how, the CTE credits, because kids have already signed up, or how is that?
There's a report that.
There's a report that
Mhm.
you will have in the fall
Yeah.
for us to see how many of.
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, that's a support, or that's a report that's run by LDL. So,
Okay.
yeah. We're thankful for that report too. Makes it easy to track. All right, next slide. I can jump into this unless the almighty person on the box there would like to do this.
Well, I just added for comparison, because I know you guys usually ask for that. So here you can see the 3 MAM sports, 10 for softball compared to 11 last year, baseball 18 compared to 17 last year, track and field 61 compared to 60 last year. So just for frame of reference, so you can see that it's actually very comparable. So that's what I have to report from MAMS. Dale?
Yeah, thank you, Erica. I don't have comparable numbers there. Last year was a really different year with COVID. We've got, from my numbers, it looks like 82 students that were participating in sports this year, but sports isn't just, that's not, when we think about participation in sports or community activities, clubs, or sport, that's just, sports is just one piece of that pie. We've got kids that are doing Habitat for Humanity, and there's a lot of overlap with those kids that are also playing sports. We typically, I would say, at any given time, and as well as FFA, at any given time, we likely have, I'm going to say, it doesn't matter what time of the season is. Fall is the biggest participation sport time for us because it's football. And we have cross country and we have swimming and there's lots going on. So we're typically running about, that's not quite 50% participation of the high school. So we want that to be higher when we start thinking about when kids are engaged at school, whether that be in a club or community activity or sports, they're actually, the research tells us that they do better in school and they attend at a higher rate. So we've got to keep working to get that number higher. And we've talked about that as a staff and what we're doing. Clubs were really difficult this year with two lunches.
how many clubs, other than sports, approximately, how many clubs do you have of different kinds for kids to participate in? It doesn't have to be exact, but
I'm going to say at least 10.
at least
At
10.
least 10, yeah. Yeah, and the students that want to, let's say that a student says, hey, I want to do, as example, a drama club.
Okay,
All we have to do is that student just has to find an advisor that would be willing to be that advisor for the drama club and they'll do that. And then we start the club and then we get the ball rolling with things like that. So we do have a number of clubs that we have, our student leadership group. I'm just thinking out loud, our FBLA, FFA. So there's lots of those that are there for our kids to be able to use. Next year will be much better. Because oftentimes those clubs meet at lunch And when you have two lunches that are delineated by grade levels,
Mhm.
it just makes it really difficult for those kids that are, let's say, playing sports to be able to attend those
No
clubs.
before school
Yep.
clubs?
No,
Okay.
Have a question. So the indicator is all students will participate in at least one school or community activity. What is that number? What's the number of students at JFK? Not in sports each season, but the number of actual students who have participated in at least one activity.
I don't know what that number is.
Yeah, so I would say if we're gonna have it as an indicator, we need to find out how to measure that, and that's missing.
That's a really tough measurement. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
something we've grappled with ever since I've been here, all three schools.
And as we're updating the
Yeah.
strategic plan, it's great to have indicators and metrics. You have to be able to measure,
Yes,
right?
indeed.
And so, yeah.
So in the past, I know at St. Mary's, they did a survey for the students that they just filled out. the survey,
Mhm.
So that you could at least find the unique number of students who have participated in at least one thing.
Yeah.
Could JFK do something similar towards the end of the year?
Not this year.
Not this year,
Yeah.
but going forward.
Yeah.
You know, so we could see, okay, of the 250 students, 200 of them participated in something during the year.
You bet.
Because the list here doesn't include FFA and all the things that we've had this spring.
And we know that a lot of kids are doing all of them.
Yeah.
So they'll be counted more than once in some.
Well, it would be nice to see every student counted in one.
Right.
And
Only one time.
Yeah,
You
just
can-
once they're in an activity, they get a
Right.
tick and then.
If we do a survey like that, it's easy to upload that into an Excel file where you can actually then sort duplicates out. And so then you actually know exactly what you have there. Yep.
Yeah, well, and then this is a little bit of a weeds because this indicator, the fact that we don't provide this data bugs me.
Mhm.
And do we not have rosters for every club and every sport that could be in one place, one Excel spreadsheet? I mean, at the high school, I'm just saying that if we had a counselor, it would be easier. So just, you know,
For
that,
your advisors, each
Yeah.
club, don't they need an advisor?
yeah,
So the advisors would have a roster of students that
Yeah.
participate in
Yeah.
those.
and it's just that next step of
Right.
coming up with the process for centralizing that, so you can count each student that is actually in
It
at
would
least
be
one activity.
interesting then to look at the data between attendance and participation
Yeah,
to see if that has a connection sometime.
And then those who aren't participating.
Who aren't
how do-
participating,
how
how's
do
their
you- how do you
attendance and,
connect them to
yeah,
activities?
yeah.
Could I add to that, Mr. Brendan, you actually, that was, for those of us, Jasmine and I were on the committee who made the original report here. That was really the whole purpose behind this indicator, was exactly what Mr. Brendan just said. It's, yeah, percentages of who's participating is great, but we want to find who's not participating because we want to get them connected with something. Because of what the literature says about being connected, whether it's to community or to school, so that students will ultimately be more successful in school and have stronger relationships. And so that's the why behind this indicator. And that we have the ability to do that in a small district. And so I just wanted to add my 2 cents in there, because this is a really unique indicator, but I do believe it's important. And I also want to say, yes, while we don't have counselors, we do have other people doing the work.
Absolutely.
And I just want to give a nod to the people who are doing that work so that we aren't dismissing the hard work that they've been doing this whole year.
You know, we have fall soccer from high school,
Yes,
and that would be boys, like co-ed team, or
I believe it's boys right now.
no girls.
Yes.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear your question, Lord.
Fall soccer.
Oh,
for
fall
high school.
soccer,
So no girls, because
no
I,
girls.
that's some eighth grade girls.
I would have to check with Mob because Title IX, we have to think about that.
Yeah.
Because we have to make sure that there's equal sports,
access.
equal access for
Mhm.
sports. I've only heard, and I'm not
So,
sure, I'm not
rumor
sure.
has it from a whispered
Mhm.
comment in my ear that the girls might be combining with Jervis
Yeah.
for soccer,
That could be true.
possibly.
'Cause
So
they-
that's their
They combined this last year with
Salem
Salem
Academy.
Academy, yes. So, for our kids to be able to do that. Yeah, there has to be a Title IX figure that equals sports and equal access, yeah.
And I'm just gonna, this indicator again, obviously it speaks to me. Another opportunity for actually figuring out how to consolidate all of the lists and identify those that aren't participating in anything. Allow the opportunity to, and I know I'm speaking to the choir, I'm sure this is part of the plan. Ask them, what would it take for you to participate? This is what we have. What more do we need? What more do we need to add? And then, match them with an advisor who would pick that up and run with it. So yeah, it's cool. It's a cool indicator and lots of potential.
I think that was the intent all along.
Yeah.
And then 2 years ago, well, COVID hit. And
Yeah.
right in the middle of trying to
Oh,
figure all that out.
absolutely.
And then it just, we haven't had the opportunity to go back and address it.
Yes, and Erica, not dismissing the hard work that's already being done whatsoever. Just knowing that there's opportunity to do better next year and the next year and the next year.
Next slide. Okay, indicator 9 is students in grade 3, 7, and 11 will meet achievement goals on state tests in reading and mathematics. So this is, wasn't quite edited correctly. That should be 2021-22. I apologize for that. So we have, Erica, do you want to talk about MAMS?
Sure. Shout out to Cameron Thompson, who was a rock star in assisting wrapping this up, and to Sue Gack for really taking on the testing at MAMS. Oh man, she was amazing. To our students though, here the indicator was for 7th grade. Actually, we surpassed the state average by about 5 points in ELA. So kudos to our MAMS students here. I don't need to read the slide, you can see it. And then our math scores are there as well. The way this indicator is written was for 7th grade. 7th grade doesn't participate in science, but 8th grade does. And you can see that that's, as Dale wrote, not a requirement for high school, but some good news to report out of MAMS.
What is the math? I'm sorry, what was the state average for math at MAMS?
I can look that up for you. As you know, I'm not a middle school principal by training, but I'm happy to look that up while we
I was just curious, thank you.
were meeting.
would
I just remember that sticking in my head while I was looking up scores.
I know that
The cut scores
the cut scores have changed, and I know that also COVID has affected testing.
Yeah, it's definitely lower, but
For sure.
yeah, but I can look that up while we're chatting.
So JFK, ELA, and this is a big shout out to our teachers, as well as Cameron when he came up. Yeah, Cameron was the one that was sweeping up all of our kids who didn't participate on the days that our teachers were providing that. That would be Serafina Sorensen for ELA and McKenna Coons, as well as Kevin Arndt and McKenna for math. And then, as I said, Cameron would sweep in behind them and grab the kids that either didn't finish that day or didn't test those days that we're doing. And I wanted it's kind of an apples to apples comparison for this, because really the only apples that we have is back in 2018, 2019, that can give you an idea of what we did at JFK compared to then. So JFK ELA, the number of students that exceeded back then was 55% of our kids. And then the number that met was 17. So we had roughly, that is what, 72% of kids that either met or exceeded in ELA. Math back then was 15% exceeds, 16% meets, so you're looking at 31%. And this year, ELA was 67%, so 33%. So we were down in the exceed side, and we were up in the meet side as far as the number of kids or percentage of kids that actually met or exceeded. So 67%. So down just a little bit from 2018, 2019. And then with math, we had 24% who exceeded which was, that's a really good number for exceeding, but we only, excuse me, let me back up. That's not what that says. 5% who exceeded, and then 24% who met. So we had 29% of our kids who met or exceeded the state math tests on this one. Did not want to go back to last year. The issue that we kind of ran into this year, word gets out that it's not a graduation requirement. So some kids just went in and click. And you try not to have them do that. I would say that was not very many of our kids. But overall, if you compare what we had back in 2018-19, 31% met or exceeded compared to 29%, it's not that bad of a difference. So it was down a little. I'd like to see that number go up, and I'm very curious to see what that's going to look like next year. Did you have anything on third grade?
Interesting,
No.
but that's not even on that slide. I don't have the final data, but I can tell you how it's looking right now. We have a number of kiddos that we haven't received scores yet, or that we're finishing up. So our ELA numbers in third, fourth, and fifth are around the state average, which is around like 40%. And it impacts younger kids quite a bit, being out of school and learning to read. But actually, our math is suffering a little bit more right now. And, as some of the conversations we've had in our school is, even during COVID and during the closures, it's a little easier to read at home, right, with your family, a little harder to introduce new math topics, like we don't sit around and do fractions at home, introducing those new concepts typically. And so we've actually seen a bigger hit to our math scores than we have to our reading scores so far. But I would be happy to bring those to you next time. Did you have something in here?
29% and 31% is that's not okay. In my opinion, like that is something we need to do something different, big time. Because even before COVID, 31% math, kids they're not prepared. We need as a district, we have to do better for our kiddos. And I don't know what that is right now. I don't know if the math curriculum that we're currently using, if that's the issue or whatever, but 31% is, to me, before COVID and now 29%, that's alarming to me as an educator and as a parent, especially.
Any other comments on this slide? Thank you, Andy.
Is there an internal math test of some kind that can be used to continue to monitor student growth versus just counting on the state test? So then you know that you're on track or you need to do remediation?
Absolutely. So we did not do a universal math screener this year.
Okay.
We just did ELA, but we are adding the math one next year. We were piloting the Easy CBM
Okay.
as a tool, and we really like how it works. It's pretty simple and easy for the kids and teachers to use. So
It's a
we will have
technology
that.
based.
Yes.
Perfect.
Yes. So we'll be using that next year. And I don't know if you've
Since
identified.
middle school or high school
others.
using something, because you can track your data in math with an internal, and then you could do a comparison to see how close they are in grade level. Is there any?
ODE offers, they just came out this year with an interim state assessment that they're doing free of charge that we can start utilizing. We're doing the Common Core state standards that we're all using that are tested on the state tests. And so I think what's going to end up happening is the RTI process that we're going to be going into is going to really help this. Because it's going to really focus our efforts on those kids who are struggling, and also be able to remediate those kids who are struggling, but also be able to extend the learning for those kids who are already getting it. Do we have something right now? No.
So if you had like something that was an indicator in September or October to see where kids are at, because let's say that all the COVID loss and everything else, at least you know what Common Core standards they do know or don't know or forgot, then you could, so is there something you could look into, so you could, other than by teacher, because if once you go by teacher, each teacher has a different standard for what's okay and what's not.
And MAPS is totally gone now.
Math was more of a growth targeted, and I'm not really familiar with math other than we did it my first year here.
Yeah.
And we did, so I'm would probably not be the one to respond to that. We did maps and we compared growth from the fall at the high school to the spring my first year here, and there was good growth.
Yeah.
But that doesn't correlate with SBAC scores per se, because it's not aligned,
Correct.
if that makes sense. We would need to find something that aligns to SBAC and the specific standards, because you don't, I think what I heard you say is this can't be a crapshoot. You don't want it to be, I think this is going to happen when we take SBAC in the spring. You want to go in there saying, I am really confident that these students, based on what we've done over the year, are going to meet or exceed the standards that are set there for them, or the benchmarks. And right now we don't have that. Doesn't mean it's not out there.
Something to look into
Doesn't
this
mean,
summer.
it doesn't mean that it's not out there. Yep.
Any other comments on this one?
So the last slide we have is our graduation rate. There was some doom and gloom back in the fall. If you all remember, I was predicting about a 61% graduation rate in the fall, which was really troublesome, really troublesome. With a small group, we are looking at, we know now, we had 26 kids who graduated, which is phenomenal in a very small class, which is 86.7% of our kids. So we were responsible at the end of the senior year for 30 students. And what people don't necessarily understand how that works is these are kids that came to us as a freshman cohort. So 4 years ago, we're responsible for every single one of those students until they graduate. And so how you figure out what your graduation rate is, obviously, if students are still with you, they're graduated. If they leave, was there a records request by another district that says, so the file gets sent out to them. So at the end of the day, we had still 30 files, CUE files that were left in our file. And we knew these kids, who they were. We know those 4 kids. And 26 of those kids graduated. We also had a higher number of kids that went to GED that actually got their GED and actually walked in the graduation this last Saturday, which is a little unusual for us. GED is a little expensive at $2,200 a term when we sponsor them, but if it's the right thing for that student to do, we're going to make sure that student gets it. We currently have 2 students right now, 2 students they're still in the GED program. One is a senior, so he is one of the 30 that's counted here that when they complete, they don't hurt us, but they don't help us. They help us in the next category, which would be completers, but they're just a wash when it comes to graduation rate. So I'm excited to see that our graduation rate is slowly climbing to where it needs to be. So we're just about 87%, which is not where we still want it to be, but it's better than what it was last year at 81%. So we're moving in the right direction. And I'm gonna say, with the work that McKenna Coons did with our Graduation Alliance, the kids that she's been working with have earned 60 half credits with her, and it's phenomenal. We have a pretty robust summer school program that she's heading up this summer for kids to recoup those numbers, to even get those numbers higher. In fact, we just signed up another student today that wants to be done, and so it's good. So rather than sending that student to GED, we're actually going to set them up on a Graduation Alliance plan and get them completed.
So out of the 26, how many received a GED?
Nobody in the 26. That's just graduates.
It's just graduates?
Yes, because they're a wash. We had 2 kids that earned their GED, 2 senior
Okay.
kids. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So on track for the kids that are coming up, that will be seniors this coming year, any idea of,
I will likely know on Monday because grades hit tomorrow.
okay,
Yep. I can get that information to you if you'd like to have it. Yep.
So Dale, with the 4 students who exist but aren't, or somewhere else,
Yes. They're counted for us, yeah.
they're counted here somewhere, so, but they're not in the buildings.
Nope.
How do we clean that up in terms of, you know, do we know where they went, where they are, what they're doing? If their records aren't requested, how does that?
Graduation Alliance was really, so Graduation Alliance is a tiered system. So tier 1 is for those students that take one class at a time, and it goes all the way to tier 4. Tier 4 is that system that says, we're going to give you these students, the names of these students, the contacts of these students, and they get a large chunk of, it's not FTE, ADM or ADMW, that they get paid for that. So we get money from the state. They get a pretty good chunk of that, but we still get that. And their job is to go get those kids and get them enrolled again. They were not very successful with those 4 kids at all. And those 4 kids,
So they exist somewhere in our community in there, just
well, one is living in Milwaukee.
more or less.
Yes, one, and didn't come back after the pandemic, but there was never a records request. Yeah. And I think one's now living in Salem as well. And then one, like I said, the one that was counted also is in this GED program right now, just waiting to complete his math test. That's a difficult math test because it's algebra 2, and a lot of kids can go through and get done with their 3 of the 4 tests pretty quickly. It's really difficult to pass that algebra 2 test if you haven't taken algebra 2 yet, or even close to it. Yeah. But that's good news. It's really good news from where we were. I'm excited about it, and we're moving in the right direction. And that's that.
Questions, comments for our presenters?
Thank you.
Thank you. And I look forward to the board discussion on, how we're gonna come up with our strategic results with the new plan. That'll be a good exercise for us to work together to refresh, update, have it make sense. Right, moving on to our budget report. Christine.
I'm here. I'm gonna get my report up. Can you guys see that?
now, yes.
Okay. So this is
Sorry, Christy, sorry, before you move on, Erica, did you have a MAMS and Special Services report that you wanted to present? I'm sorry.
I do, but let's let Christy go and then I can go after.
Okay, sorry, I missed that.
okay. So for the food service fund, you could see just normal activity. We did get a little bit more for federal reimbursement. We got a small grant because of the supply chain issues. I think it was like $16,000. And so that's included in that 63,000. And there's restrictions on what we can use it for. But Stacy's all over that and knows how we're going to be able to use that for next school year. And then down below, we had our basically our normal expenses, the non-consumable supplies of the 6,300 slicer that we got for grant money. So it's a wash, even though it looks like we spent more. So our total revenue is 67,960 and expenditures 48,818. And so we have an ending fund balance projected right now, 49,000. Okay, and let me get the other report up. Okay, so this is the regular financial summary. We got our last payment in of state school fund, so it included our state school fund money
We're not seeing,
as well as a reconciliation from the prior year.
Christy, we're not seeing anything. We're seeing a blank screen. So you know.
I'm sorry, did I lose you guys?
Yeah, we were just seeing a blank screen. We weren't seeing what you were.
Okay. Oh, it's my wonderful Wi-Fi that I have. It kicked me out, it looks like. So give me just a second, I'm sorry. Okay, what did you guys hear?
So we were hearing you. We just, your screen was.
Oh, okay,
showing up, so.
got it. Okay, so total revenue for the month was 660,286. And then for expenses, salaries are up a little bit in the month of May because we pay out coaches. And then you can see we have some large expenditures towards the end of the year in purchase services. This is just paying things like our SIS system and our special education placements. That stuff all happens at the end of the year. So these aren't shocking numbers. These were, we knew they were coming. So our total expenses for the month were $930,707. So right now projected ending fund balance is $594,569. I did like a little blush today after doing all the payroll, and I think that this number will be a little bit higher because my projections were a little conservative. So that's good. So any questions on this?
Any questions? Nope, we don't have any. And just based on what I'm hearing, Christy, I hope you're gonna be doing better soon.
Thank you. Me too.
You're welcome. Yeah, we don't have any questions for you. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, going back to administrator reports. Erica, did you want to give us the MAMS and special services reports?
Yes, you guys have a single sheet there where I tried to summarize everything. I have a summary in there. We had so much fun at MAMS, wrapping up the school year, bringing things to a close. I swear we had something fun every day for the last week and a half. It was a whirlwind, but the staff was phenomenal, pulling everything together, and I think everybody had a great time. Mr. Jeff Taylor was able to come for a couple days, and I think everybody just really loved having him there, getting to know him, just having his presence there. So that was great. He and I are hoping to get together next week to do, a Q&A with each other, to kind of do a baton toss. And I think he and I have a lot of the same questions for each other. So I think our brains are already kind of on the same wavelength. So I'm super excited for him. He's just the perfect fit. And then lastly, I just wanted to acknowledge Sue Geck and all of her incredible work that she has done for MAMS. She is working summer school for us, but just, formally acknowledging her retirement. She is just so dedicated to the students. She is just one of those silent workhorses who just will get the job done, but she just loves those middle schoolers so deeply. And I just wanted to acknowledge her service to our district. I don't know if you guys had any questions about MAMS. I'm sure you have a lot of questions since the last time we met, but we did finish the year strong.
Good. Any questions on MAMS? Okay, no questions, Erica. Keep going.
Great. House Bill 3499, we are all hired up and we're meeting July 18th just to get things started. So I'm really thankful after a long year of planning and trying to hire to finally get things rolling. So just a little update there. You have the update on the counselors, and summer school is still kind of still in the works. And I will just say, because of some of the extra roles that I've been doing, and just the ability to be able to use a lot of different grant funding, we are still accepting a few other students, specifically in the middle school grades, as we offer additional course offerings. So we don't have classes totally finalized, but we're fully staffed, which is phenomenal. So that's where we're at. If you have any other questions,
Any questions?
you know me, I'm always always ready, or I try to be.
I am not seeing any, Erica. I think we're good. Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Okay, thanks, guys.
Moving on to our superintendent's report. Rachel.
Well, thank you, Chair Reedman and members of the board. Good evening. Tonight's report includes the following topics for you: enrollment as it stands right now, which is in the front of your board packet, 2022-2023 transfer requests, an update for you on that, the status of our staffing for next year, district safety and security, a strategic plan update, and a little bit of information about the seismic grant that we are the recipients of. So I'll start with enrollment by saying just between May 5th and June 10th, we had no one requesting to go in or out for this school year. So 0 activity there, and still have 6 students in stride. In regard to transfer requests for next year, we have 13 new requests for transfers out of the district, and this includes the numbers that I gave you several months ago, but it's a total now of 13 new requests. We know that there are 6 kinders, 1 7th grader, and 6 9th graders. And the reasons for their transfers out are the following. 1 was more high school options, 1 was special education related, 2 were childcare related, 3 had siblings, all of whom were already in the Silver Falls School District. 2 were from Bethany Charter, who now they wanted to move on to 9th grade in Silver Falls, and 3 didn't put a reason. So those are the reasons for wanting to transfer out of our area. We also have 10 requests for transfers coming into our district. We have 6 kindergarten requests to come in, 1 3rd grade, 1 5th grade, 1 7th grade, and 1 10th grade. And our forum doesn't require people to put a reason why they want to come to us. So it's unknown why, but we're glad that they're coming. And I'm particularly pleased to see 6 kindergartners. That's the best investment we could make. So that's excellent. Are there any questions there regarding next year's enrollment? Okay. So a staffing update for next year. We have 42 licensed staff, 28 classified staff. We're still very hopeful that we're going to fill a counselor position. So that's 1 remaining. And we have 2 classified positions to fill, both of which are special needs. Any questions on that? Okay, extremely important topic, district safety and security. We had, Erica Gordon and I had met with the emergency preparedness consultant from Willamette ESD early in May. And what we determined in that meeting is that we needed to have an action plan, which we scheduled for this summer. The summer action plan includes a training for anyone who's going to be doing assessment on security in our buildings, because we want everyone to have the same baseline if they're assessing the safety of our buildings. Looking at our current documents, which includes, I should have pulled one, but safety flip books that we have in each of our schools and classrooms. We're going to conduct facility assessments, review the assessment data and make recommendations, draft and solidify a plan, implement training and exercise activities as well, and have a safety task force. So all those things are happening this summer. Now, this was all scheduled and took place before the tragic events of Uvalde. And it will let me move. There we go. Once that incident happened in Uvalde, we quickly reassessed where we were at it currently and in order to finish the school year. So we took a look at all 3 schools and looked at door strength because we heard that there were some doors at the middle school that couldn't pass the tug test, meaning if you pulled at it hard enough, even if it was locked, there was a way to get in. We looked at classroom visibility and security protocols that were in place. So again, we found some doors that did not pass the tug test. We found several classrooms that did not have blinds or window coverings, which is very concerning. We checked to see which classrooms and rooms had flip books and didn't, and which had classroom, procedures for standard response protocol directions and codes. What we really need to do for our practices and procedures as we move into next year is that all staff need to review the standard response protocol that we do in conjunction with the Mount Angel Police Department. The standard response protocol is from the I Love You Guys Foundation. And I Love You Guys is a standard response protocol that many districts in Oregon, as well as throughout the United States, use. And all schools need to introduce and review the standard response protocols with students in early fall. One of the things that I appreciate that the I Love You Guys Foundation states is that crisis isn't a choice, but response is. So I Love You Guys uses the following standard response protocols, and these are not sequential. That you may have a school that unfortunately floods. You may have a cougar that you see on the playground. Those things happen. So depending on what the emergency or the crisis may be, that's the standard response protocol that needs to be in place. But this is what we need to practice. Do we all know what this means and how we need to respond to it? And I just want to point out in the lines, or excuse me, the words in blue. One of the things I appreciate about I Love You Guys is that not only is it research-based, but psychologists and families have helped put this together, and it's very developmentally appropriate. So how you would present standard response protocol to a 6-year-old looks very different than it would be at the high school, as it should be. We want things to be developmentally appropriate for our children. So our next steps are to complete these security tasks for the summer, update our safety resources and materials as needed, make sure that we have our standard response protocol staff training during staff in-service week, and I'm working with Chief Daniel on verifying that, review all of our updated safety resources and materials during staff in-service week, and also look at what comes out of the facility security assessment this summer, because might there be anything in there that needs to be an important part of the bond list for next spring's bond. So those will work in conjunction. I believe that's my last slide on district safety and security. Yep. Are there any questions about safety and security? Okay. I have enjoyed the talk tonight and discussion about strategic plan, because what has been surfacing is going to get addressed in this. Right now, our strategic plan is very much under construction because the big work got done, and now we're into the smaller moving parts to put something together. So this is an update on where we're at, and it probably is a little bit too much into the weeds. However, I believe you will appreciate it based on the conversation that's happened tonight. So we have 3 ad hoc teams right now. We have a vision statement team that has met for hours. And what they have done is looked at our vision indicators. We have 4 priority areas. We have student achievement, healthy partnerships, healthy students, and facilities. Within those, the teams that worked on the strategic plan committee came up with specialized indicators of what we wanted to be or become in each of those 4 priority areas. What I'm going to do is just point out that the vision statement team is looking at the larger overarching umbrella vision statement. How do you capture the entire process that we did in one vision statement? That's the work of this team. So what they have been able to do is to take 18 vision indicators that were quite a few words and been able to pull priority phrases and words that kept emerging in each of those 4 priority areas. These are some of the stronger examples that came up repeatedly: inclusive, academic equity and access, responsive student support systems, student resiliency, student independence. So it's pretty likely that when we come up with our final vision statement, it's going to include quite a few of those, because that was something that just a theme that kept emerging. The work is still very much in progress, though. We've got some work yet to do. Another team we have is the editing team. The editing team also spent many hours, but they looked at something different. They met to review, to remove duplication and refine not vision, but value statements. And the value statements are, what are we committing to here? What are we willing to collectively do to make sure that these goals get met? So they were able to refine things from 24 value statements to an example such as this, looking at what the heart of a good strategic plan, the collective commitments are what make it a go. The collective commitments are what get us to the end game or the end line. So this was an actual example that came from the strategic planning committee work in the Healthy Thriving Students priority area. And the group had found that they were able to put together 2 really important value statements, but the work of the editing team was less is more. How can we take both of those and make it into less of a statement that says more and still captures it in a truthful way? So one example was that we were able to do that by making the words say, create and expand activities based on the expressed interests of students, putting those 2 together to make one. So we were able to refine down from 24 value statements down to 16 value statements that are spread throughout the 4 priority areas. So that is the heart of the work that we're going to do. And we have this design team, and the design team has not met yet. But we will be reviewing examples from other districts, not only in Oregon, but throughout the United States. We really want to take and look at what is visually appealing, and also what's the right fit for Mount Angel. How can we capture this whole process in a 1-page document in a way that is meaningful to our community? So these are some visual examples of what I found. We'll take a look at that. We'll take a look at font size and colors and design and all kinds of things. But that's going to happen in July. The next steps, we need to bring the editing and the vision work together to really look at how to bring a design to life. We need to design that 1-pager, the support materials such as this, what we had for our most recent strategic plan. And it's time to develop templates for goal setting and progress monitoring, which is something that we definitely can tighten up and improve in. And that will happen in July. And then developing not only school goals, but department and board goals taking place in August, September, and October, using the templates that are going to be designed this summer. I want to say a little bit about goals, and I'm glad that I put this slide in. I had debated it, but then after tonight with the conversation, I think I'm really thankful that I put this slide in. So here is that same example Create and expand activities based on the expressed interest of students. That's our heart. We started with the vision indicator of what we wanted to become, and we wanted to become a district where every child participates in co-curricular activities. This is what we're willing to collectively commit to. That's done. That's the heart, again, of our strategic plan, but what we really need to address now are the goals. These are some fictitious goals that I put in, but they align with what was shared tonight. So complete student interest surveys by the end of September might be one way to get at what students express their interests are. Log the number of participants in clubs and activities quarterly. Increase parent and community outreach to underserved populations. Revisit policies for sliding scale fees for sports by September 30th, 2022. And again, these are fictitious, but the goal, we have the heart, but now we have the bones or the framework of the strategic plan. And I think it's really important to say that goals can only get you so far if you don't know the tools that you're going to use to monitor your progress. So we'll be looking very carefully at what the tools are and how frequently we will be measuring them. And then also the second important piece to that, when we look at measuring progress, what are we actually doing with that data? We can't just say, okay, here's the data, we're having a quarterly report. How do we respond to it now? So those will be two really key pieces to moving forward in the work.
And in my work with strategic planning, Rachel, one phrase that comes to mind with all of these statements, I would add, so what for the kids? So what for the kids? So we're going to measure this data. So what for the kids? What's the impact? And that's something that I've kind of conditioned myself to do in my work at the county. It's not so what for the kids, it's so what for the customers we serve. But yeah,
I like
really
it.
good.
Excellent. I think that's my last slide for strategic plan. So before I move into the next bit of information, are there questions or comments about the strategic plan?
I'm excited.
There's a lot of
No
really-
pressure.
No,
I'm
but I mean,
excited.
I'm excited too. It's great work, and this is where it comes to life for all of the great input that's been gathered. Seismic retrofit grant. So the state of Oregon has seismic retrofit grants that are meant for rehabilitation of critical public buildings. And this was established in 2005 by the legislature. The goal is to make sure that buildings that are critical public buildings are stronger and safer in preparation for seismic disasters, particularly in two types of buildings. One, emergency service facilities like fire stations or hospitals, and two, public schools, including higher education. The total funds that are available this year are just shy of $89 million. It was a competitive grant that the application went in February, and I'm pleased to say that the Mount Angel School District is one of the 24 recipients of this. And our award is almost $2.5 million. Now here's the interesting part, and I'll share with you the why. The funds will be allocated for the middle school gym. The why is that we had a seismic hazard levels evaluation for all three schools last year by ZCS Engineering and Architecture. And in their review, all three schools had low to moderate ratings for seismic hazard, but there was one structure in the entire district that had a high hazard level, and that was the Mans Gymnasium. And actually that ended up working to our benefit on this application because gymnasiums are considered a critical meeting point in communities. So I think that added to our ability to get this grant. The state is going to be sending a contract this summer that I will review, but that's all the information I have. I have no timelines. I have no knowledge yet of when the work needs to be completed. But I'm very pleased to say we have $2.5 million coming.
That's good.
Wonderful. Do you know how many grant applications were submitted out of the 24 that were awarded?
That is a really excellent question. I don't have an answer to
And
that.
that's okay.
I do know that when I have worked in previous districts, this was a very hot topic to run after this money because there's no matching to it. You just get the money. So
Yeah.
I'm sure a lot of districts did.
And the fact that it's non-matching is amazing. That's very cool. Yeah. Well, well done,
Thank you.
everyone involved with getting this grant awarded to us. Any questions for Rachel on her report in general or comments?
The 2.4 million, is that what they believe is that's what they gave us? Is that what they believe is going to cost to fix that gym?
No, what they've done is they have the 24 districts listed and most of them have received that same amount. So I don't know that it was necessarily based on the amount of work that needed to get done. It was what they were willing to dole out.
So we potentially could be having some leftover or some short to fix the gym. We just don't know yet until we get this one, right?
Right.
Question? Questions or comments?
Has there been any thought to, I mean, trying to be optimistic, having leftover money, what we would try to, would be our second choice besides the middle school gym to put the money towards?
I think it's important to look at what the actual assessment said. Anything else that was moderate structures that seismically,
It's like the
Moderate
elementary school
hazards.
gym was like moderate too, yeah. Okay,
Interesting.
I'm trying to be optimistic. that there'll be
Well,
some money
I like your
left over.
optimism.
I do too. And I would be the first person to say that in my previous district, we worked really hard to partner the seismic grant with the bond as much as we could to try and make money go further.
Yeah.
So that could work to our benefit here as well.
Any other questions or comments? Okay. Board member reports. I have something to share. I'll keep it short. I was able to engage in the RTI training that happened at the district last month, right? And this month. And it was very enlightening. And I think what we've talked about as concerns and how we're monitoring student progress and catching students that are not at the level we want them to be. RTI is a journey and we're starting that journey. It's going to take a long time to build the structures and systems and all of that. And I'm just really excited about the journey that we're embarking on. And I appreciate Rachel's leadership in bringing this specific multi-tiered system of support framework to our district, because I think just from what I heard, it has the potential to be transformative for every student, both those that are struggling and challenged to engage in learning and those that are engaged in learning and need more. So I'm really excited about it. So I just wanted to share that as part of my report and appreciation for letting me sit in. It was a good experience. Okay, moving on. Now we're to the public forum part of our agenda. And this is where anybody who has signed up can come and address the board. You have 3 minutes. Jill, do we have anybody who signed up online? And in person, we do have Christina Barbosa, who is signed up to address us tonight. And while you're walking up, Christina, I will say my blurb that I say. So individual comments are limited to 3 minutes. If more time is required, please submit comments or questions in writing. At this time, members of the public are invited to present concerns to the board. Speakers may offer objective criticism of school operations and programs, but the board will not hear complaints concerning individual school personnel. The chairperson will direct complaints to the appropriate means for board consideration and disposition of legitimate complaints involving individuals. That's a mouthful. So whenever you're ready, you can go ahead and begin.
Thank you. Good evening, Chair, and also board members and staff. I appreciate the opportunity to join you again as a parent to express my concerns, but also in a different capacity as an equity practitioner. in some of the conversations I've had in the community. My child does live in the Mandeville School District on Spruce Street. And I'm here to express concerns regarding the emotional well-being, safety, and inclusion of students in the Mandeville School District. Several parents and I spoke to this board in May regarding some concerns regarding a racially charged incident and how it impacted our students. Furthermore, we also extended the invitation for partnership with district staff to collectively work together as a community to change the culture within the district. Following that board meeting, several unrelated incidents occurred between the school district, specific at the Mandeville Middle School, that include threats among students to harm each other through violent means, and then also the response of the school to the mass shootings in Texas. Although I appreciate the letter in regards to the safety measures and the precautions that the school district is taking, sometimes a letter is not enough. Response to threats, racism, and bullying, and the lack of resources for our students and their emotional well-being with mental health interventions lacking continue to be a concern. The lack of resources coupled with the lack of parent voice and involvement have resulted in gaps within the response and the resources available. I would respectfully ask the board to consider the formation of a coalition of student safety and well-being that is parent-led and can act as an advisory body to the school board. In an effort to address a myriad of concerns facing our students today, this must be a collective approach that includes students and parent voices. In an effort to ensure the revision of an equity lens guide this board has adopted, community voice must be centered in the response and its approach. Since the incident in April involving my child specifically, I have personally talked to 55 parents in the community who have shared similar incidents involving their children, which they felt that they were victims of racially motivated incidents that have gone unreported for various reasons. Within those conversations, 5 patterns of concerns emerge: racism, bullying, lack of mental health resources, and peer-on-peer violence, and the supports for students who have learning disabilities and or behavioral issues. Although these conversations were not formal interviews and there was no scientific conversations nor approach to the data collection, it was just my expertise in working with individuals that I utilized to have engage these folks in conversations. I just want this to serve as a snapshot of concerns of real world problems facing our families today and within our school district. There's no single party to blame for these concerns and realities of our families, but the response for change must come from multiple avenues that include the voice of all those impacted. Thank you.
Thank you, Christina. Any comments or to Christina's statements? I would say as a board, we can consider, I heard a specific request in Christina's statement that there be a committee, a steering, a coalition of student safety and well-being that is family-led that can advise the board on issues. And that can be something we can consider at a future board meeting if there's enough interest by board members. So I would just document that. And Rachel's, I'm sure, got that documented as well. Right. Moving on to action items. Man Angel School District budget for 2022-23 school year. We need to make this thing official and adopt it officially in a public meeting. And so somebody, if you would like.
So you read it. Read it right below, be it
Yep.
resolved.
Yep,
Wait, pause after each one or just keep going the whole
just
time?
keep going.
Okay. Be it resolved that the Board of Directors of the Mount Angel School District ending 91 hereby adopts the budget for fiscal year 2022-23 in the sum of $14,279,304 now on file in the District Administrative Office. Be it resolved that the amounts for the fiscal year beginning July 1st, 2022, and for the purposes shown below are hereby appropriated. Be it resolved that the school board of Mount Angel School District 91 hereby imposes taxes provided for the adopted budget at the rate of $4.6268 per thousand of assessed value for operations and an amount of $928,829 for bonds. And that these taxes are hereby imposed and categorized for the tax year 22-23 upon the assessed value of all taxable property within the district.
Right. would be a motion to adopt the budget in that resolution language. Do I hear a second? Second. Any discussion? I just want to commend again, I know we've talked about it, but I was very impressed by Christy and Rachel and your ability to explain a very complicated scenario that was ever changing and landing on a budget that we can be confident is sound. And it was tough. It was tough. And I just really appreciate all of the hard work that went into this budget for this year. Thank you. All right. Any other discussion? All in favor? Aye. Yay, we have a budget for next year. All right, moving on to Umpqua Valley Financial Auditor Contract. So we have the contract in our materials, and if somebody wants to make the motion to approve it as is on the blue sheet.
I move to approve the contract between Umpqua Valley Financial Auditors and the Mount Angel School District.
A second.
Moved and seconded.
Discussion.
Yep.
Is this replacing the people that we had for our auditors?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, new auditors. Any other discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous. Okay, perfect. And now, this person and family have been waiting this entire meeting. So this is just an example of how engaging and exciting our board meetings are. So you have an idea of what you're getting yourself into, but I'm gonna let Andy kind of take the lead on this next item of introducing our student representative.
Just want to say a big thank you to Teresa for partnering with me in this journey. I'm pleased to announce that we have made a decision for the student rep to the board, and that is Ms. Taylor Alexander, and she's going to be a junior next year at Kennedy High School. And so we are very, very excited to welcome her to the position, and we're looking forward to her input that she has from the student perspective.
And I would like to give you, Taylor, a round of applause for being part of our school board. Yay. Saying yes and applying. I think that's wonderful. So, anything you wanted to add more about why we have Taylor?
No, I think she'll be a great voice for the students at Kennedy, and she's excited about the role, and I think she'll take it very seriously in that. So I think she'll be, like I said, a great contributor to the board.
Wonderful. Well, Taylor, do you have anything you wanted to say to us, or any questions you have for us as your?
I'm just really excited to be able to voice our opinions to everybody and to those who it will matter to. I'm just very excited to work with everybody.
Wonderful. Do any board members have anything they want to say to Taylor?
Exciting to have a student. Yes.
Yes. Welcome. Yes, welcome. We're very excited. Yeah. All right. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. How about one more round of applause?
The first student rep.
Yay,
Yay.
that's exciting. And before we adjourn, I just want to remind us that in our July board meeting, we will be electing new officers, a chair and a vice chair, so be mindful of that. I have served as chair for 3 years now, and the limit is 4. So we are all eligible to be chair, and we are all eligible to be vice chair. So just wanted to plant that seed. And I just want to thank you all for your hard work this school year. And for the 3 new members, I'm really pleased and excited with you being part of our board. Does anybody have any closing comments before we adjourn?
Just congratulations to Rachel for making her
Yes.
her first year as
Yes.
superintendent, and
Yes.
I hope she doesn't regret saying yes.
Yes, I hope your positives are outweighing the negatives.
I'll be back.
Yeah.
Yay.
Thank you.
I'd like to thank the teachers, the assistants, all the hardworking people. It's a hard job, and thank you for all that you do for our staff, students, families. It's really appreciated.
Agreed. And, since we're, going on before we adjourn, congratulations to everyone who is involved this week in graduating from high school
Yes.
and in promoting into high school and in promoting into middle school. Very, very exciting. So congratulations to all the students and their families and support systems. For our state champions baseball team. Goodness, that's a big deal. All right, now, am I ready?
Yeah.
Now we're adjourned.
It's been a frustrating process. It's really frustrating. Being present.
Oh, you know.
As the algebra. I know there's that.
Well, but I'm glad that
Yeah.
Look at those two.
Oh, wow.
Thanks, Bill. Thanks, Bill.
Yes, they are.
Yes. So fun.
They're pretty
Come
close.
click mine while you're-
I was gonna ask you.
Will you do? And I'm gonna say,
Are they pretty close?
They're very close. So that's my daughter and son. that